Now that we have stitched up the main pants, we move on to the next step. In this video, we will cover the following: arrange and stitch waistband, construct fly front zipper. Begin by loading the snapshot. Click Prepare to show the pattern pieces we arranged in the previous video. We need to add the fly and waistband patterns into the clusters. Let's add the waistband into the back low waist cluster since the closure is at the front. In Prepare mode, we ensure that we move the waistband up in the 3D window. To improve the way the waistband is sitting on the avatar, we change the wrap type of the cluster. We click on the drop-down list and select Waistband Belt. Since the waistband is curved, let's also rotate the waistband so that it sits evenly in the front and back. Since the waistband will overlap itself, we need to set a collision type. Let's turn on the grain line so we can determine the correct collision type. What collision type should be used for the waistband? Is it A, right over left, B, left over right, C, top over bottom? If you answered B, then you are correct. We see the diamond is pointing to our right. The diamond always points to the right of the pattern piece. This means that this is the right side of the pattern where the button will be placed. When we assign a smart button, the collision type is automatically assigned properly. Let's add a smart button and assign it. We will add a new button from the Trims drop-down of the Material tab. The button placement is already noted on the pattern with an internal point. With the Assign tool, click once to place the button, then again to place the buttonhole. Clicking the pattern, we see the collision type has been updated to left over right. Since the front of the waistband should overlap, let's scale the cluster. You can pause the video here if you need more time to arrange the waistband patterns in the correct cluster or add the button. The next step is to add the fly. In Arrange, we drag and position the patterns to overlap one another. We can add the fly patterns into the back low waist cluster or the front torso cluster. Since we do not have any other patterns in the front torso cluster, it would be easier to rotate, scale, or adjust the position of the fly patterns. So we add the fly and the fly facing to the front torso cluster. We want to position it below the waistband in Prepare mode. We need to adjust the 3D layers for the fly. The fly facing should be just below the front leg patterns. We want to increase the wearer's left leg 3D layer so that it does not collide with the wearer's right leg patterns. We therefore increase it to layer 5. Then the fly facing will be layer 4. You can pause the video here if you need time to arrange the fly. Now we can start stitching. We stitch the waistband first. The waistband has corner points indicating where the side seams, center back, and fly match. Let's stitch each section beginning with the wearer's left front. We can move the waistband to be closer to the edge we are stitching in 2D. With a multi-stitch, we stitch from the waistband to the front wearer's left leg and the pocket facing. Click Done. The multi-stitch evenly gathers edge measurements. In this case, we do not want the stitch to gather. The front leg edge, including the pleat, is longer when flat, but will be shorter when the pleat is folded and sewn. To properly sew the edge, we need to match the stitch length to the notch indicating the pocket opening. Drag the stitch point to match the notch. Remember that you can stitch both in the 2D and 3D window. Rotating to the back of the avatar in 3D, stitch from the wearer's back left waistband segment to the wearer's back left leg edges. We do the same for the wearer's back right. We repeat the same process as we did for the wearer's left on the wearer's right. Be sure to match the stitch length to the notch. We end by selecting the fly edge along the waistline. If you need more time to stitch the waistband, pause the lesson here. Let's stitch the fly. The fly pattern needs to be stitched to the wearer's right leg front rise. The fly extends over the corner point on the front rise, so we will need to adjust the stitch length. For the fly facing, we stitch the internal line on the fly facing to the J-stitch. Then we stitch the side of the fly facing, making sure to adjust the stitch length and flip stitches as needed. And we stitch the top seam to the waistline, matching the stitch lengths and flipping the stitch. We allow the garment to simulate. Next, we attach the zipper for the fly. To do so, we need to add internal lines on the fly and fly facing. The first line we add is the fly facing. We do a clone by offset of -0.6 inches from the edge of the fly facing and ensure that extend to edges is selected. The width of this offset determines the width of the zipper, including the width of the zipper tape. We also want to add another internal line as close as possible to the edge of the fly. We do a clone by offset of -0.1 inches away from the edge, and again ensure that extend to edges is selected. Next, we will add a smart zipper. We will add a smart zipper from the trims dropdown of the Materials Resources tabs. A smart zipper can be assigned to an edge or an internal line. We will assign the zipper to these internal lines. Assigning the zipper to the internal line on the fly pattern allows the zipper to simulate better, as the zipper needs to sit on top of the fly pattern instead of next to it. Let's add the zipper. Assigning a smart zipper is like a single stitch with the Assign tool. With the Assign tool selected, we select the smart zipper from the trim section of the Resources tabs. We hover our mouse over the internal line on the fly piece. Zoom in to be sure we are assigning to the internal line. Click once to assign one half of the zipper. Now we see the zipper assigned to the internal line in the 2D window. To assign the second half of the zipper, we hover our mouse over the internal line on the fly facing piece. Click to assign the zipper. We can remove a zipper by selecting it with the Select tool, then clicking Delete on our keyboard. If the wrong edge is selected while assigning the zipper, we use the Escape key on our keyboard. This assigns the zipper to only one line as a decorative zipper. We can then select and delete it. If you need more time to assign the zipper, pause the lesson here. Reassigning the zipper, we need to finish adjusting it. With the Select tool, we click the Assign Zipper. Selecting the zipper, we see the context menu shows additional zipper actions. If your zipper is not sitting on top of the fly pattern, we will need to flip the side of the zipper. Select the side of the zipper in 2D. In the context view, at Selected Internal Line, we click Flip. Now we can see in the 3D window that the zipper is correct. If the zipper is upside down, we can also flip the direction. The next step is to adjust the width of the zipper. We want to make the zipper width slightly smaller than the distance between the fly-facing edge to the internal line we have offset. This helps make the fly look more realistic once we render it. We change the zipper width to 0.475 inches. Now we allow the zipper to simulate. We need to delete the stitch we previously created on the front rise. If the zipper is sticking out of the front leg pattern, we can increase the 3D layer of the front leg pattern to give the 3D object more room to simulate. We adjust the wearer's left leg pattern to layer 6. We can also use Force Multiplier on the edge. Force Multiplier can be used to strengthen the edge of our garments. In real life, the seam allowance can help to reinforce the edges and to keep the shape required for the best fit and look of the garment. In V-Stitcher, we can apply this reinforcement using Force Multiplier. To apply Force Multiplier, we first select the edge we would like to reinforce. Go to the Context view, and in the Edge Properties section, select Force Multiplier. Amount is where we input the real-life number of folded layers of fabric. The amount to input depends on how the seam is constructed in real life. For example, if it is a superimposed, lapped, or bound seam, to name a few. We can study the cross-section of the seam in real life to count the number of layers. For this edge, the cross-section adds to be 4 layers, so the amount will be 4. Depth is equal to the seam allowance. Let's input 0.625 inches. It also helps if there is a slight gap between the Smart Zipper and the top edge of the fly. This prevents any puckering along the waistline. We enable Edit Points, then drag the Smart Zipper slightly. Finally, we dress the garment. Finish the simulation and save a manual snapshot. Save your file before moving on to the next lesson.